Welcome to World Talk with Friends, where the small world we live on becomes smaller as we discover neighborhoods all over the world by simply talking to our neighbors. This is Haggy Shack Radio production, simulcast over Wolf Spirit Radio Network. Colleen Kelly is producing with friends Nancy, Nora, Neil, and those we have yet to meet. Welcome to our world. With me is Colleen Kelly, who's producing this from Haggy Shack Radio, simulcast. Is Wolf Spirit up today?
Studio A is, I think. Studio B, I don't know. But
okay, yeah, so maybe it's being simulcast. I've got Barbara Threecrow here with us, and my co-host here, Nora Willow, and really. You know, the big elephant in the room is Standing Rock. Let's face it. This is getting bigger and bigger. How are you guys doing today? Nora, you doing good in Italy?
Hello. Yes, I'm good. Hi, everyone. Nice to be back again.
And is it cold there now, Nora?
It's freezing. Yeah, it's getting colder and colder every day. My body is adapting.
How about you, Barbara? You got cold there?
Actually, we have rain here, and the temperature's a little warmer. It's been going kind of fluctuating from really cold to then warm to snow, then rain, and it's quite a mix of stuff. But I'm good. I'm happy to be here with you, and I appreciate you so much for asking me to come on.
Now, you're in New York, correct?
Yep, I'm in upstate New York, Hudson Valley, which is about 100 miles north of New York City.
Now, when I ever interfaced with the Native Americans early in my learning, it was really over the American Revolution, because the American Constitution was drawn very closely with the Algonquins, I believe.
That's correct.
Why don't you just talk about the Native Americans and the Algonquin peoples, and, you know, who are these people that are so integral into the creation of the American government concept of a federation, of a republic?
Well, it's definitely was a federation, you know, of people who, you know, they had, I guess you'd say our Constitution, you know, was pretty much based on their ways, their peaceful ways. It's the first, I guess you'd say the first issue that was happening with them is they had, you know, different various tribes here in the New York State, all the way up through Canada. They had through the Great Lakes. So you have various tribes, and of course they were also experiencing, they were through New England as well too. We have the Eastern Algonquin as well. They were experiencing their issues of war and battles and so on, and the peacekeeper had pretty much you know, come in to try to pull the people together, you know, to for peace in their own nations. So the peacekeeper brought pretty much, you'd say,
now,
same.
Let me just ask you: the peacekeeper, is this some individual, or was it a number of?
Well, the peacekeeper came to, you know, the people. I'm just looking here. I just want to make very sure that what I'm going to say to you, you know, I'm very clear with, because the peacekeeper was someone who I would call him a spirit. That's what the people believed. on Turtle Island. He came the great peacemaker, he was called. I call him the peacekeeper, but to me, he was one of the beings like Buddha and like Yeshua and like the feathered serpent and Konkul Khan, the white buffalo calf woman, and Viracocha. All of these beings came with the same message of peace and how to live in harmony and balance. So he was called Dhaka, if you want to say. So he came to bring the, you have the Algonquin, but it was really what we're talking about is the Iroquois Federation, the Haudenosaunee, which was the Iroquois Confederacy, which consisted of the Algonquin nations, the Onondaga, the Mohawk, and all these other people in this New York State up through Canada, as I said, and Massachusetts and so on. They were basically the ones that our United States government connected with as far as our democracies. So that's how that all started. They had a great imprint or influence on the United States government with their democracy, the ways of their democracy. But there's also a prophecy about this, the great peacekeeper, about returning. Just like the Messiah, we hear the speaking about the Messiah, various religions have the Messiah will return, and the indigenous people have that also, that it's interesting because he's called the white serpent. And there we have also this other prophecy that we're looking at about the black snake or the black serpent. So it's interesting to me. I think that a lot of these prophecies, and you've heard me speak about many prophecies, run side by side simultaneously. It's almost like the positive and the negative. Okay, you have the prophecies that are speaking of, the shift and change into the Rainbow Warriors, which is a positive, which you have people coming together. You have the prophecy of the entering into the fifth hoop, the 1,000 years of peace, the transition into the new world. Then you have the prophecy of the black snake prophecy. You have the prophecy of the end times, the end of one world, which is the fourth world, and moving into the fifth world, leaving the time of chaos and violence into the years of peace. I see all the time these prophecies running side by side. It's almost like the spiritual light and that of the dark seems to be jockeying for position. And of course, all of us people, every one of us is crucial here as how are we going to participate and swing or the energy or sway, you could say sway or influence the energies of either one of those prophecies that are, moving forward and actually happening in our time. And by that, I mean...
Can I interrupt one time? I'd like you to go over the black snake because some people may not know what that particular, which is very, very, appropriate right now that we understand what that said.
Yeah, the black snake prophecy, there are various prophecies that the elders from different nations, and the Hopi are particular in this as well. They express the prophecy about the Rainbow Warrior. They express the prophecy of the trees dying from the top. They express the prophecy of strange beasts moving across the land on, the way they described them, they actually came out to be, the trains running across the prairies, and the web, the strange web in the sky, which would be destructive. And we believe that those are chemtrails because you look at them, the way they're placed across the sky is like a web or a grid. So they've actually spoken so many prophecies that are, unfolding in our lifetime now. And the black snake prophecy is a Lakota prophecy of, of course, if you look at that pipeline, the way it is snaking across thousands and thousands of miles of the earth, all pipelines. I guess this one in particular, because of the timeline that it's in and the significance of this particular DAPL pipeline, if it goes into the Mississippi River, there's the potential for severe pollution and disaster. And it's not when or possible. It's not if it does or if it possibly will. It is when it will, because as we know, if you do all your research about the pipelines, there have been so many breaks in these pipelines and so much cover-up about these breaks and the pollution that they are, polluting waters and rivers, and illnesses are really happening due to these pipelines. So you look at that pipeline, if you imagine this huge pipeline, it is snaking across thousands of miles to this point there at Standing Rock, where it will enter into the underground, into the Great Mississippi, which of course we know touches all the waters. It's not just there where Standing Rock is. It will really severely pollute the waters, sicken those waters for many, many people, not just the native people. The black snake, if you imagine what's inside the pipelines, it's this black goop, if you want to call it, the black goo. Talk about the black goo, right, Nancy? This is it's poison, really, literally, it's a poison substance. So they are looking at this black snake prophecy as the pipeline. The elders are saying that this is what that prophecy is indicating. Excuse me, and the prophecy basically says if that black snake is successful, that it means the end, and when we look at prophecies, it's very difficult, of course, to interpret them. We don't really know. I mean, this is me speaking here, looking at this black snake prophecy when the elders say the black snake, if it succeeds, it will be the end. What does that really mean, the end? Does it mean the end of that river, the great river, the Mississippi, the end of clean drinking water for millions of people? Does it mean the end time or the end of the world? You could take all those pieces and you could say that, yes, it means every one of those, every part of those pieces that it will involve. Does it mean the end of the world? Well, let's look at that. It very well could be the first, I could say the first step toward, because what it means is if this pipeline, because there is such an outcry about this particular pipeline, but it's not just this particular pipeline. We know many people throughout the world are fighting this corporate ideology about, this, taking the resources from the mother, whether it's coal, particularly oil. If this does go through, because it is such an outcry, it almost seems to me the battle here is a key piece, this particular battle. I'm calling it a battle or a war because it is a war for life. It is a war for clean water for everyone. So it's sort of like, let's say the good versus the bad. Here we are again. The good people standing with Standing Rock, their love of the water, the right to clean water, the right to sovereign people, and the right for everyone to have, their clean water and, of course, the safety of their burial grounds and so on. But to me, it is about the water, the drinking water for everyone. If this goes through, to me, it's almost like a free, ticket now, because they can do harm to the water freely now. They can do harm to the people who are peacefully protesting or protectors. They can, as we see, severe harm they're doing. We're really praying that it doesn't come to the loss of life, because it seems to be peaking and moving towards something that is quite severe. And if that happens and this pipeline gets the okay, look at what that really tells us. Who's really important? What is really important? Where is our standard of life, a standard of living compared to, what we're talking about, our children, your children, everyone's children and grandchildren, standing, against these corporations, this greed that is really not necessary, as we all know. What is available for energy, really. It's not necessary, but it's that corporate ideology of that greed. So I feel that maybe is it an end to the world that we know, that we have known, because that is also a prophecy. But you could look at it that way.
Let me jump in here for a minute, because earlier today I came across a video that I would like to go over right now. Hold on just a second. Okay. It's a video that is talking about what the Native Americans weren't or couldn't do. And I just want to go through it. I hope I don't click the sound back on. Because what I said is that, okay, these are deplorable facts. The first Americans have never been free. And now they are standing up for all Americans and all humans and all that is nature. It is time we stand with them. Standing Rock will be remembered, as is the battles of Lexington and Concord, where the first military engagements of the American Revolutionary War transpired. The bullets have been rubber thus far. Pray that this is as far as it goes, and American patriots will not have to reenact a bloody revolution that freed a nation. Okay, now that's what I wrote, and this is what this thing, says. Native Americans were not considered citizens until 1924. They were not allowed to leave their reservations until 1924. They couldn't legally vote until 1924. They protected their lands from U.S. seizure. They couldn't. They couldn't establish their own tribal governance until 34. Actual voted in all 50 states was just recently. In 68, they were granted full freedom of press. Not until 1968 were they granted the full freedom of the press. Okay? They weren't granted full rights to a fair trial until 1968. They couldn't have religious freedoms until 1978. They could have their children taken from them until 1978. Understand that. The Native Americans could have their children taken from Native families up until 1978. They couldn't practice their own languages in their own schools until 1990. They're still fighting for voting rights, hunting and fishing rights, sovereignty rights, treaty rights, and that's what they're up against. Okay, they have been so put down, so controlled, and in the end, they're the ones that finally took action and stood up for the water. And it's not just the ones in Standing Rock. When I was going through this information, there's people in Canada, indigenous tribes in Canada, that are actually protesting and trying to stop where they're pulling the crap out of the ground, the oil, and it's not even good oil, it's fracking oil. It's terrible stuff that's going through these pipelines. So on the other side of the border, you also have indigenous people standing up, going and protesting in Ottawa, for the same thing. And it's just the irony of it all. I mean, when you step back and you look at it, that this United States, the very document that I have sworn allegiance to, okay, the Constitution is based on the natives' way of coming together. The first family, the first Americans, figured out how to come together under a document and create a peaceful environment. Now, when we look at that document, as the founding fathers of America did, they realized that the only way it works is if the human beings who are in charge are good people. So this whole 200 and some odd years that we've been playing in this country, what did we discover? Well, people are great, but corporations suck. And if you lose everything to a corporation, as we have in America, there is no American government. There is no republic. It is controlled by a corporation. And I've done videos. Somebody, light dancing. Somebody who's been following Wolf Spirit heard me give a 20-minute presentation on how the republic was lost. And they put all this video together with it. And, you add the video, it's an interesting thing because we can speak the words, but when you see the pictures, it gives you a whole different perspective on reality. It sort of like just grabs you and compels you to see more. And this is what this 20 minutes did, that this light dancing, put together out of my words. And it's much more of an impact to realize, oh yeah, okay, there's a DUNS number, they admit they're a corporation. So when you see the people in Standing Rock standing up, these are the people who we thought maybe would lead this country, or the founding fathers hoped would lead this country. And it's just like I say, the irony of it, and the way that you can explain the prophecies to us, that brings in the other side of it. We like to talk in 3D, but we also are really, really into the spiritual aspects of what is occurring. And when you think in terms of the fact that there was a prophecy that talked about a snake going across and then it shows up in our lifetime. We are in a very, very critical place. And I do believe that someday somebody is going to ask you, or maybe not us because we might not be here, but the younger people, where were you when Standing Rock was occurring? What did you do? And none of us can, or few of us, basically none of us can run off to Standing Rock and stand with them. But it's like you say, Barb, you got this peacekeeper out there, somebody that came to him once before, somebody that may be here again. And when I was on chat with you one day, on some show, I guess it was when we were listening to the live feed from Standing Rock, and you said, put it in the hands of the elders, or the ancestors, I think, maybe.
Well, the elders who are in contact with the ancestors.
Can you expand on that? Because I felt like, okay, a while back I would say, we as humanity, we can do this. And I do believe we can do this. But over the last few months, I've also began to develop a greater appreciation of the fact that this is bigger than humanity. This is bigger than big. And we need assistance from every realm that's out there. So if you could just, because when you said that to me, it was like, yes, that's what we're missing. We've got to join, we've got to work with the elders, or, to figure out what to do here. So, expand on that, please.
Well, yes, certainly it is, because what we are all focused on right now is Standing Rock. Okay, this is everywhere. The whole world is focused on many things, but Standing Rock in particular is right now at the height of our focus, because it is so significant on so many levels, and some of it I just described to you. So when I said leave it in the hands of the elders, it's because it is at Standing Rock. It is with the great Sioux Nation, the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, and also the many other over 500, tribes who are coming. The seven sacred fires of the Ocheti Sakoyan are together now for the first time in probably 200 years, which is huge for those people because, of course, they've been deliberately separated, and as some of the things that you just spoke about, Nancy, that they were not allowed to follow through with their way of life, which meant, the people coming together for ceremony and all the traditions that are so significant. So right now our focus is on Standing Rock, and it's not, it's not Flint. Let's say Flint, Michigan. You have people there standing up and protesting for Flint, around Flint, Michigan. I'm just using this as an example. Right now in that situation, there are no traditional elders there. Not to say that elders or people of, First Nations are not praying for the water in Flint. We're talking about people on the ground, their home territory there at Standing Rock, where there are many elders holding a tradition that is so ancient that, the majority of people don't really know what this is. They have no idea. When I say an ancient tradition, this is their way of working with the spirit, directly with the ancestors, through their sacred pipe, through the Chanumpa Wakam, what we call it. Okay? They have this wisdom. It is very ancient. They have this gift of this power through that sacred Chanumpa that was given to them by the White Buffalo Calf Pipe woman, Pescawian, who was sent to them. So she gave them all the ways to live in harmony and balance, and how to respect each other, how the women and the men were to be side by side in respect, how to care for the children, the significance of paying attention to everything that you did, everything with in mind for the coming generations, to be conscious of that. So when I say, let the elders, this was a message actually, but it's been something that I've been talking about too, a message from the grandmother, Charlene Whiteface down there. I was in contact with her also, but she said the elders from Pine Ridge Reservation and Standing Rock are asking the people to leave now so that the big spirits can do their miracle. Because if you get in the way, if you mess around, or you're too busy, there's too much action, there's too much energy, there's several thousand people there. They come with good intentions and good hearts. The elders are saying, come and make your prayer and go home and continue to pray for the water where you are. Continue to pray for the people and for harmony and healing. They want them to leave because there's so many people there that it's sort of like thinking about if you're at a ceremony, think of yourself at a ceremony, a sacred ceremony where people are praying. Everyone comes to the sacred fire with tobacco. They're asked to come forward and place their tobacco in that sacred fire with a prayer for help and healing and so on. And then the people step back, or they come and they pray with the Chanumpa Wakam. The prayers are put out, the prayers are sent out. Now, if you have several thousand people at a ceremony like that, there's bound to be people who don't really understand this way. And you can't control the people's minds. You can't control their actions in a camp that's set up like that. Now, we're talking an energy or frequency, not that the people are saying they're deliberately coming there to mess things up, but the elders realize that if you really have trust and faith in your prayer and how powerful it is, there's no need here for you to stay here and mill around and get in fear because the police are standing there throwing rockets at you, getting enraged because you're angry at what the police are doing, because that's a different energy, and that draws away from the power of prayer. That interrupts and interferes with the communication with the big spirits, what they're calling them, the big spirits, or the Tunkashalas, the ancestors, okay, or those beings that we don't even really know, these water beings. There are spirits of the water. There are spirits of the earth, not just the mother. There are spirits, all types of spirits that do certain works, and the elders know who those spirits are. They're in communication with them. So I guess you'd say, the people who are going there have love of the water too. The people, young people and all people are coming there from all places, all walks of life to Standing Rock because they're enraged about what is happening. They're sick and tired of it, you know. But the elders are saying we are peaceful protectors. Peaceful of mind, peaceful of emotion. Okay, it takes a lot to be that way. When you're standing and you got lines of police lobbing, tear gas at you or shooting rubber bullets at you, and you see over there the pipeline and the machines working. But the elders and the people who follow this way, it is their life. They know how to hold that peaceful energy. It's very hard if you don't grow up in this way, if you don't understand how to stand in that peace, okay? That is an energy. And if you're not in that peace, if you're there in the front line and you're screaming at the police in front of you, you're not peaceful. It's a different energy. It's disruptive to a ceremony. They are in ceremony there, the elders and the people who this is their life. They're not saying they're angry at the people who are coming. They're not saying they're not happy. They say, we need your support, everyone's support, but you have to have trust in the prayers. Meaning, you've done your work here. You've put down your tobacco. You've said your prayer. They're asking them to go home, to leave now, so that the big spirits can do their work without interference. So that's what's going on. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be praying. We're all powerful. We all have a way to communicate with Creator and the ancestors, and some you probably don't even know, but if you pray to the water people, if you pray to the ones that carry the light and the power to shift things, I have seen those miracles happen. But I want to say miracles happen in a way, miracles happen not in how we like to see them, you see. You can't have that agenda and say, this is how I want it to be. Okay, Creator works in mysterious ways. So we have to have that trust and faith in that our prayers are powerful. And what I'm talking about here is our humanness. Okay, so as human beings, we go there and we're going to get riled up. We're going to get frustrated. We're going to get angry. We're going to get fearful. And that's really disruptive in a ceremony through that sacred pipe, through that Chinampa energy, right? So our prayers are so powerful, but when you're at a front line there, standing in that situation where you're in war for life, for water, for your children, your grandchildren, and the mother, it's very difficult to hold a peaceful energy and hold that high frequency. So
what you're suggesting is the same thing that some of us have come to, with sort of more substantial reasoning for it, actually, that we focus on the reality we want to see, not the reality we may be seeing.
Right. Well, I just want to say that, think of this. If you believe in the power of prayer, and when you know that in order to pray successfully or manifest, you can use the word manifest, but it is a prayer. You want to manifest successfully, you have to be very clear. You have to be very centered, right? You have to be very succinct in manifesting. Otherwise, you're basically, disrupting your communication to spirit, to the universe, or to Creator. So if you leave the war zone, you're more powerful. Your prayers are more succinct, more clear, more powerful, because you're not being affected by that war, be the bullets and the anger of somebody standing next to you screaming and yelling, or somebody falling on the ground, You see what I'm saying? It's like, how can you be most powerful? Most powerful means holding yourself in the light, in peace, and centered, and very clear, free from the negatives, which would be anger, rage, fear, doubt, right?
Yeah, it's very clear, and I think it makes a huge sense that not everyone is capable of dealing with that sort of situation, and that's okay. I mean, I think everyone should do their part in the way they can do it. Because then if you force yourself to do something that you are in that moment not ready to do, as you said, the whole energy is going to be disrupted, and then, your prayer wouldn't be powerful enough. So I think it totally makes sense.
I've had people who are irate and upset. I've been there myself, and I've had to really get clear on, wait a second, what am I sending out here? We're so easily, spun with what's going on. Yes, we have the feeling and emotion of anger and sorrow, but I can't afford to do that. I can't tell you what you need to do, but I can't afford to do that because I carry a sacred chanump. I carry a sacred pipe. I can't afford to step out of that into anger, into that other energy, because that's very disruptive. And I realized, wait a second, this is like part of an agenda here, a deliberate, agenda to get everybody spinning here in that low frequency, that low energy, to disrupt the prayers of people who are really holding the good energy, who are really, this is their way of life. When you have an elder being torn out of an inipi, it's a sweat lodge, during a ceremony by these police, thrown on the ground, and put his hands behind his back with his face in the dirt and putting these, those strap things on their arms, he's still in prayer. He was in prayer. So, if you think about that, you have to have a certain way of knowing the power of prayer under any circumstance to hold that energy. You see, that's the difference of people who don't, really live in this traditional way. I don't know how more I can describe it. It's not that people are bad. It's not that people aren't welcome. It's not that they're not grateful. They are very grateful. They need the support. But they are saying, we need the prayers, we need the trust in your prayers, but we need you to leave, Now you have 2,000 vets going there. We have no idea. Of course, it's all out everywhere. The sheriff down there and whoever is behind all this, the Apple Pipeline people, they know 2,000 vets are showing up. Those men are going to be, they're saying, peaceful, unarmed, they're ready to die for this. They're there to protect the protectors, the women and the children and the old people and so on. They took an oath, as we know the oath for anyone in the service. They believe in this oath. They're standing up here on American soil. Okay.
I swear to protect the Constitution against all enemies, domestic and foreign.
That's right.
Foreign and domestic.
And their words, and their words were actually, this is evil here. They use that word. We've been all saying that. But so it's very concerning because this is going to be happening on the 5th, and I think that they put that proclamation now for everybody to leave the camp because something's going to happen. And we've been on edge about, the seriousness of the assault and what's the next assault going to be. Is it going to be some crazy person in a uniform who says, I'm just bringing my bullets and I don't care? That's very possible. I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but it takes one infiltrator, and I know there are infiltrators there
exactly.
At that Standing Rock. It takes one infiltrator or a couple of infiltrators that are going to go say, I'm a vet, and they're going to stand, and they may have been bought. This happens, unfortunately. This is sad. It takes only one, to do something that's going to cause a serious, incident. And I know that there are infiltrators down there. That's become very clear.
This was my worry as well. I mean, when I heard that there were all these vets going, I thought, this is very honorable, but what if there are some that don't have the intention to actually help, and they're there to actually disrupt, whether it's them or anyone else, people that are already there. Yeah, this is a huge cause of concern.
Well, let me point something out here. Those 2,000 vets that may or may not be showing up, those are the only people on the ground, unless there's other vets, who understand war.
Well, there's already vets there. this contingency of 2,000 started from another source, as you know, if you've read it. So there are vets there, you know.
But what I'm talking about here is the psychological, because you're talking about, you know, that they can have some provocateur to get in there. They've already done that. I mean, I'm sure there's people already on the ground that are doing this. But we have to kind of make a real sort of leap of faith here, that the people who are the vets, who do understand war, who are not going there because they like war, but they're going there because they truly do believe that they took an oath that will not stop because they left the military. They took an oath for their lifetime, and that's the way I feel. And if you've got that kind of, let's say, understanding of what is at stake and what could happen, you may have more control than when you've got, you know, a lot of people who are there because it's another, you know, what was it? The one in New York there, Woodstock. You know, it's another Woodstock revival. You've got those kind of people, and those kind of people are dangerous.
Yeah, the elders don't want them. They've been putting that out left and right. We don't want, this is not a festival here. This is serious. This is war here.
That's exactly true. And so they have an unrealistic, irresponsibility to what is really happening if you go in there with that kind of a concept in your head. So they're dangerous. You bring in the trained military people who understand the awfulness of war. You may have more control, because on the other side of the fence is going to be all these cops that either were there with them or don't have a clue. And the ones that don't have a clue are the ones you got to be aware of. You know, it's those people. But if you've got this massive amount of energy that says we're not going to do war in the United States, we're not going to fight anymore for corporate interests, we're going to stand here. You know we could bring guns, but we're not going to do that. We're going to stand here. So this may, and for those people to come together, you know, just from a standpoint of like, human karma, you know, for the military to now be drawn into a situation where they can only stand there with their bodies and their good intentions up against, you know, probably live ammunition by the time it happens. When you see that kind of a change in the people that actually were in the wars, that were the battlefield commanders, that were the troops, that were the grunts.
Yeah. It's unprecedented, isn't it?
It gets bigger and bigger and more unbelievable. And yet, I'm with you. You know, I early in this year, I said there's something that the Native Americans know that we need to learn. And maybe this is what it's all about. Maybe it looks like it's getting, you know, worse, but it's really getting better because it's causing more and more divergent and unique energies to come together in one place called Standing Rock, of all things.
Exactly. With the Black Snake prophecy right there.
Right there. I mean, it's like, you know, talk about a good story.
Exactly. You couldn't write this book, right?
No.
Well, I feel that it's a miraculous thing, and I think it's a powerful teaching for everyone involved. And I think if you really, you know, I know you've expressed that, Nancy, about the Indian people know something that we have to learn, and I think that this is it, part of it. This is a powerful teaching, an opportunity for everyone really to learn this way, ancient way of the people coming together in peaceful prayer with their sacred items, you know, against this, you know, this evil, this darkness. They've dealt with this from the beginning. For 500 years, they've dealt with this. And
I have to point out, it didn't work then.
It did not work. You can't kill spirit. You can't kill the spirit of the people. Now, there's been an agenda right from the beginning, and I've spoken about this so many times, the agenda coming here on Turtle Island to destroy this way of the people, the original people. Why? You have to question it. Why would there be such, an agenda to destroy the sacred items of the people, to destroy the clan mother system, the matrilineal system, to destroy the prayers, the language? We're talking the language. The language is the mother tongue. Everybody had the mother tongue. I call it the mother tongue because it is the original frequency language to Creator and the Mother Earth, as you call Gaia. The English is not that. The English is corrupted, as we know. We think of the words. There's a lot of negative meaning hidden behind the English language. But when you speak the mother tongue, you are one with the Mother Earth, Gaia, and the one with the Creator of all things, Great Spirit. So that mother tongue, when the children were stolen from the people up to 3, 4, 5 years old and up, they kidnapped the children, took them away, sometimes many miles, and these children never returned, or they were murdered or violated in these government schools. That's another research if you want to do it. To destroy a people, to destroy the language, to destroy.
I just want to jump in here again because it was one of the hardest things I've ever done is to just research what happened in Canada.
Yeah.
The indigenous people. It is absolutely,
and it's not just Canada.
No, it's not.
There just happened to be more information that came out first in Canada, but this is all over in our country, this United States and Canada, to what they did to indigenous people.
I just want to tell our listeners that this is something that shook me to the core, that human beings could do this to other human beings. Every nightmare you've ever had, those people lived through. Unbelievably, they somehow survived with the message that Barbara's giving us now. They've held on to the teachings, even though everything that is evil in this human experience was leveled against these people in ways that you don't even want to hear because it's so awful. So I'm not asking you to go out and learn the details and go through the soul wrenching that I went through. I'm asking you to understand that these people have been brutalized and still they've got that core, something in them that we need to know. And that's why I keep going back to the same thing,
Well, what it is their spirituality. And that's why I've been saying over these last few years, the key here now in this timeline is our getting really strong in our spirituality. It's not religion. It's spirituality. It's their understanding of the fact that, number one, a spirit exists within everything. So if you think of that concept, how would you act? How would you live? If you know that there is a living spirit in all the trees and all of the forests, in everything on the earth, in the water, the air, the cloud people, the star people, spirits everywhere. If you know and believe in that truth, because it is the truth, and that's another thing that was deliberately dumbed out of white people, is that truth, that's a whole other story. But if you believe in that, if you live your life because you've had the experience with the spirits, you've had that experience, and this has passed through generations, and this is the way you live, according to that knowing that there is a living spirit in everything. I ask you, how would you then live your life? And if you have that connectedness to Creator, Great Spirit, and you have seen and experienced the miracles through the prayers and the ceremonies that you learned from your ancestors, how would you live your life? So this is what they know as truth. They have the mother tongue that they try to, kill that in the children. They try to kill the spirit. You cannot kill spirit. You just can't. You can harm it. You can corrupt it in so many ways. You can hurt it. You can crush it. But the spirit within every one of us okay, exists. It is eternal. And that spirit within you, within me, within every human being is part of, I call it the particle of the Great Spirit or Creator or God. It does not matter the words that you use. It is our Creator. We are one with. That's the law of the universe. The universal law of one, it's called, is the way that the First Nations people live according to. That we are all one. We are not just one as people. We're one with the Mother Earth. She knows us. We're one with the tree people. We're one with the four-leggeds, the wingeds, everything. If you paid attention to them, they would speak to you, you see. And that's the way the First Nations people have always lived. They are one with and communicate with, through prayer, through ceremony, the way they've been taught, with all of life. You know, so if you live that way, you know, maybe, and even scientists, now today, as you know, in the studies about water reacts or has a response to our words, you know, Indian people have known that forever. The same thing with plants. Indian people have known that that plant has a spirit in it and will respond to you. Now scientists are doing these studies and they're finding out, hey, this is real. Why do you think the book, you know, The Secret Life of Plants, which is, I highly recommend this book, isn't in every library, in every school library and part of the curriculum? It's because through that book you will find out, just as that, is it the Japanese man? Emoto
Yeah.
did the studies. When you look at what he's done, it'd be very difficult. I don't know what type of a person would say this is false or unreal, that my words mean nothing to that water. That water is not really reacting to my gratitude or the love that I say, I love you, or I'm so grateful, or I hate you, and various other negatives, because the water does react. So why do you think this information, you know, is not in every school curriculum? Because if everybody knew, like the Indian people knew, that there's a living spirit in everything, and when you cut that tree down, that tree is in sorrow. But you have to say to that tree with tobacco, as the Indian people know, my love for you. Well, first of all, they never cut down trees. They always took wood that is already down, but I'm just using this as an example. You give an offering of tobacco, or you feed the spirit, and you ask for the medicine of that spirit, of that medicine, whatever it may be, plant medicine, you know, the water, everything. It makes a difference, you see, and everything that we needed to survive was given to us. Every medicine that we needed is on the mother. The clean water, the air, the foods, everything. But it's not to be taken without communication or relationship or a knowing that this is a being that is going to give its life to me, so I'm going to give it an offering. That's awareness. That is conscious awareness of our oneness with everything. Is Colleen's asking for a link? I don't know what link. Maybe she's not asking for us. I don't know.
No, I was asking G. She's got a...
Oh, okay. I see. Okay, sorry. So the mystery, it's not so mysterious, really. It's like I say, what's happening at Standing Rock is a powerful moment in our time, and it is a teaching, a great teaching from a people who are there, standing strong for the protection of the water for everyone and the protection of the mother for everyone. This is a crucial point in time that we have come to. It's really miraculous to me. And how are we going to receive their teachings? Are we going to come to learn what they are really all about? Yes, we need to be irate, and we need to stand up for the water all over the world. But let's also connect with our grace within us, our own spirit, our love and our compassion, and the peacefulness. If we want to get to the 1,000 years of peace, we have to be peace ourselves, not angry war and violence and abdicating violence and stirring people up. That's only staying in that fourth world of chaos and violence.
We've got a couple of minutes till the top of the hour, so what I'm going to do right now is just remind people that you're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio, Haggy Shack production. You can go to Haggy Shack Radio, haggyshack.com, and you can listen to the radio streams there. Both Wolf Spirit and Haggy Shack are donation supported. That's how the stuff to get it up there is nobody gets paid for it. It's all, just to keep everything going. If you go to wolfspiritradio.com, you can also become a member for $5 a month. And the $5 a month is reoccurring in that they ask you, do you want to continue? It's not just an automatic thing. And over on Haggy Shack, if you go and you donate $30 or more, you can get some S4 Shungite stickers, 3 of them. We so appreciate all you people that do listen to us, not only in the live program, but, as archives and other people pick them up and play them. We just appreciate you listening to us, and I so appreciate Barbara giving us this insight into the First Families, the indigenous people, the Native Americans, but I suspect that most indigenous people have the same kind of belief system. So when we come back, I'm going to let Nora ask questions that she might have, or Colleen, and to focus in on the teachings, if that's okay with you, Barb.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to take a break now. We'll be back. I'm assuming you got something going, Colleen, yes?
Yes. We'll be back in about 3.5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, and we're back.
And welcome back to World Talk with Friends. Colleen Kelly producing, Nancy Hopkins here. We've got Barbara Threecrow, our guest, and my co-host Nora Willow. Nora, do you have some questions or some comments that you'd like to make regarding what Barb said in the first hour?
Well, first of all, I have to say that everything Barb said was so beautiful, and I so agree with it on every level. I couldn't have said it better, and I think no one could have said it better. The thing that I'd like to kind of focus on for a few minutes is, and I always go back to the same subject. I guess it's a bit of an obsession that I have, but it's about children. When I was listening to Barbara talk about all these beautiful teachings and concepts, I kind of remembered myself as a child. And I remembered the way I thought, the way I saw the world, the way I perceived it. And it's very similar, almost, let's say 90%, to all the teachings and all the things that she was talking about. I find that quite interesting because I believe that on a general level, maybe not all children, but many children view the world that way. They see the connectedness between themselves and creation, and the animals and nature. So I kind of want to ask you, Barbara, what do you think about this? How do you see that connection? And on a general level, where it's all children all over the world, even children who are born in other cultures, and even specifically the children within, the indigenous families or tribes.
I'm sorry, can you just tell me what your question was?
Practically, how do you see it? I mean, from kind of my explanation about myself, the way I viewed the world, that it's very similar to the things you said. How do you see children? I mean, do they learn these things, or do you think they have it's an innate thing?
Yeah, I do think it's an innate thing. And we all have this sacredness within us. We all have this fundamental nature, I call it. And nature, of course, the nature of things, of course, we can know what that is. We can identify the nature of things. But the nature also means nature around us. We have a fundamental nature. You could use those two descriptions here. The fundamental nature within every child, number one, is that they are sacred. Okay, and so you could say, well, we just came from the womb of the great sacred mother before you enter into the womb of your earth mother, right? And of course, we all know, I think, we've made agreements to come here to participate, especially in this particular timeline. This is an extraordinary timeline. We've all returned here because we knew the troubles that were coming, and we agreed to participate. So we all have this innate nature of wonder, joy, free expression, creativity without fear or shame, unconditional love, fearlessness. That is a child's nature, right? What happens when you first start to come into society? You come into a home where your people, your first people there, your mother, father, they have been corrupted from their original nature through the brainwashing agenda, societal agenda, cabal agenda, okay? And then the grandparents gave that to them. You have this chain, you see, this long chain of this corruptedness of your spirit, You can't kill a child's spirit, but you can crush that spirit so that it is forgotten, right? So that it is deeply wounded. So, and that comes through the societal brainwashing. And I use that term brainwashing because, folks, I have to tell you that we have all been brainwashed.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a very extreme statement, but it's true. After 30-some years of doing the work that the spirit grandmothers gave me to do, I've come to realize, first I said, well, this must be a conspiracy, and I was joking about it, but in fact it's true. So yes, we all have this innate nature where we know the magical beings. We know the magic. We know the spirits. We have the, whatever you want to say, the fairies, the little people, the angelic ones, whomever it is, all children have this connectedness. And this is very real. This is very true. Now, the difference between one culture from another, and I'm just, it doesn't matter. There are many cultures, like Nancy said, there are many First Nations people throughout. We all started, black, red, yellow, white, all started as tribal people, all earth people, I call them, meaning they're connected to the earth. They are wise in the ways of the mother. And that is before, the intrusions of technology and organized religion. Okay, so everyone has started out this way, but something starts to happen. Of course, you have that chain of brainwashing through the media, through the cabal, mind control. You have all of that because this is so powerful. We are talking about a power that we have within us, that is innate within us, to really be in the true relationship with the mother here and with all of life. And that is our spirit connectedness. So we all have that. And that slowly gets corrupted and trashed and denounced, If you were a child and you had the wonder, little people have wonder about everything. They're like in awe of everything, And
Exactly.
also they have free expression. They're not afraid to express themselves, They're not afraid they don't have fear or shame. That's ingrained. They don't have self-loathing. That's ingrained. They don't have low self-esteem. That's ingrained. Prejudices are ingrained in people. If you put a bunch of little children in a room together of all different nations, they're just loving each other and they're in awe of each other. They're playing. They'll have a squabble. That toy's mine. No, this is mine. But in the innate nature of children, is to be in awe and wonder and free and love unconditionally. Loving unconditionally is very different than loving. The word unconditional is very powerful. That means you have no agenda for that person in front of you who you say, I love you. Unconditional love is, I don't have any agenda. If you turn your back and walk away from me, I still love you. I still love you. If you spit on me, if you hurt me, whatever you do, unconditional love is there. It's ever present. And that's the way Great Spirit loves us unconditionally, the children of the earth, all children of the earth. So I hope I answered your question.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much. I so agree on that. Unfortunately, as you said, the spirit can get crushed. Some people could grow up becoming not very nice. Other people may just be crushed, as in that wonder goes away. So how do you, now my second question is to me and to the listeners, to everyone, how would you see a way to actually work on oneself? I mean, I know that's a very general question, but just an idea in the sense of how a person, let's say if someone is starting from square one, okay, and says, okay, I notice and I realize there's something wrong with me in the sense that I want to change. And I realize that I've been brainwashed in a way from society and everything. How can a person start from the beginning, let's say?
Well, one thing is, I've done this work. The spirits downloaded this particular work that I titled Core Methodology. And, I realized after working for about 15 years with various people, different ages, different heritages, men, women, it doesn't matter, mostly women, because men, I find it's sad, but men are very blocked to really going deep into a place where you have to really, it's not easy. Any kind of therapy or healing is not easy. And men, our brothers, have been deeply brainwashed, just as we women have. And one thing I always start people out with is I ask them, what do you hear in your head, constant messages that are negative, hurtful, harmful, or nasty, or derogatory, or whatever? You want to write a list of those things that you hear. So looking at that list, you want to say that what is the source of that information? And you also make a list of the positives about yourself, what you know inside of you that is true without a doubt. That's sometimes more difficult for people because what keeps intruding are the negative brainwashing on the other list. So, if I advise someone to say, that you are a sacred being, and you have your own innate power and wisdom, they might hear in their head, well, that's crazy, or that's ridiculous, or that's not true. Now that's on the other list, okay? That's the downer list. But they may hear that constantly in their head, like you're not good enough, I'm not good enough, okay? Or I'm gonna fail no matter what. Or good things happen for others but not for me. Or nobody really cares about me, or I'm not lovable. There's something wrong with me. On and on and on. There's like about 15, core beliefs that lead to ensuing core beliefs. It's quite an amazing thing. And after about 15 years, I started to realize it didn't matter who I was sitting with to help or guide. They all had the same core beliefs. And I was thinking, this is really bizarre. How can that be? This person from across the world who has a Chinese heritage, or this person over here who's, German or whatever, they all believe the same thing, this negative belief about themselves. And that's when I said, there's gotta be a conspiracy here. And,
wow.
And I was right. It is a brainwashing, okay? But it's handed down through generations. See, our generation here now is the time to break the chain. It's the time of enlightenment. And it's hard to become enlightened. It's hard to find your inner power and your inner wisdom that you all were born with when you've got a negative brainwashing program telling you that you are worthless and useless, you see, and that you're not good enough, and that, And yes, some people have been so violated that their programs are quite severe. But they can be helped and healed, but they do need to really have help with this. With some of these programs, they're so deeply embedded, these brainwashing programs, that it takes certain methods to really eliminate them, to deprogram them. It's like a computer. Our brains are like computers, and when we're children, we're like little sponges. We have no life experience, so everything that are around us, that our first people there are telling us, our mom and dad and whoever is in charge of us, we believe them. We don't have any way to gauge that this is false, or that they're wrong, or that they're corrupted, or that they have no clue, or that they've been harmed themselves. We don't have anything to gauge. We can't do that. But innately we know that something's wrong. You see, when you're a child that something isn't right. You know that you are a sacred being. Okay, and when things start to harm you, when your first people there, mother, father, whomever is in charge of you, start to harm you, abandon you while you're even in a household full of people, it's devastating. How do you deal with it? So the way we deal with things, okay, we have certain archetypes that I call in this work. One archetype is called the feminine warrior and the masculine warrior, who are opposite on the left and right of the medicine wheel of life. And then we have the inner child, the nature of the inner child, the true child. Then we have the brainwashed child, the lost child. And the one archetype that we have is the survivor aspect. Okay, the survivor aspect kicks in when we are in trouble as a child to help us survive. Now, some of these ways that did help us to survive as a child do not serve us now as an adult. So we have to discern, what did I do when I was a child, when things were really terrible in my household? Did I run and hide? Did I shut down? Did I close off my feelings? Did I disappear? Did I leave my body? Okay, so you have to identify all these different circumstances of what really created you, the adult, which is false, because you deny your own sacredness. You deny the power that you have and the wisdom that you have. You deny all of these things because you were trained to deny them. You deny the fact that there are living spirits and everything, and that the little people or the fairy people or whomever it is that may have helped you when you were a child, you now deny them because you were told that you're crazy or silly or don't talk like that or you're weird.
Or you're schizophrenic. I heard that one.
Well, or you're schizophrenic. I had a woman come to me who had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and the work that I did for her, I knew what was really going on with her. She was really, severely brainwashed with these thoughts. The thoughts that you have in your head on the level of the brainwashing are quite severe, and sometimes they can lead to suicide or harm to others because they're telling you to do something, or they're telling you that you're just worthless and you should just die. These are messages that people hear from this brainwashing imprint. Now, these are imprints, and they're not only physical, emotional imprints, spiritual, mind, body, spirit, because that's what we are. So I helped her, and she's certainly not schizophrenic at all, and she's just incredible. She's an incredible person. She no longer hears those terrible voices in her head. Like if you go to a therapist, you say, I hear voices in my head that are telling me, to kill myself. They're going to give you pills. Yeah. They're going to give you drugs, and they're going to call you schizophrenic.
Exactly. Now, I'd like to share a little personal story that actually, funny enough, happened to me last night. I've been on this spiritual reawakening journey for the past now almost 14 years, and I still have so much more to do. I mean, every time you learn something, you realize that you still have God knows how many more things to learn, obviously. So 14 years is nothing on a spiritual journey. But even after this good number of years, I still have some patterns, obviously, that I need to work on. And it's been 2 years now that, thank God, I'm kind of out of it, but I went through a very, very traumatizing situation. So even though now it's much better, but last night I broke down and I actually went to bed at 6 p.m. first time, and I slept for 14 hours because I was so down. I mean, it just happened suddenly. And last night, for the first time in more than a year, let's say about a year, I heard those suicidal voices again. Oh. But the difference, because I've been suffering from this for a while, and I'm very open about it. But it's been a while now. Yeah. And when that happened last night, and I was just quiet, and I was hearing it, and I knew it was me, the difference was that the other voice, my higher self, was much louder, was much more powerful. Much more powerful. It just overpowered it. And it took me just a few moments, and it just completely disappeared. Right. So, for me, I mean, I'm talking about it very openly that I've experienced it. I'm still, for God's sake, I'm still experiencing that because those imprints are not gone completely. But you see, that's the thing. It's when you are aware and you realize it, you're like, you can work with it.
Yeah, you see, you identify your higher power, you see, because you've done some work. I mean, there are majority of people who don't even recognize that they have a higher power, but the higher power is always present, and sometimes of course, they don't hear it or they don't believe it, and that brainwashing program is so powerful, because brainwashing is powerful. You just can't say, oh, I'm brainwashed, I'm going to stop it now. You have to go through a deprogramming. But first you have to identify the brainwashing programs, you see, and everybody has the same programs pretty much. So it's quite amazing. You know, people present themselves in a manner that they seem to be okay. But inside, what's going on inside is what you really have to pay attention to.
Barb, let me ask you a question. You said that it's the same, you're seeing the same programming. Is it just what you just said about, you know, you're not capable, things always happen? Is it the same kind of rhetoric that you said earlier, or are there specific things that you can detail for us?
Well, those are part of it. You know, one of the main programs that the people that I've worked with, great percentage of people, if they really pay attention, the ultimate key core belief, I call these a key core belief that leads to ensuing core beliefs beyond that, is that I am not lovable. So when you have a program, you have to look at the source of the program. This is a whole method. First, you identify the negatives that you hear constantly, okay, in your head. You write them down. That's very important. Okay, then you go to the source. What started that program? In other words, you're going back in time. You're going to go back to the moment that you started to think that way. What caused you to think that you are not lovable? There's something wrong with you. Okay, so you have to then begin to look at your circumstances. You know, what did you hear as a child? How were you treated as a child? Some people say, I had a great childhood. My parents were very loving, but then their programs tell me differently. So what they're hearing in their head is telling me that they did not have that nurturing, supportive, loving, safe, secure childhood that led them to have certain core beliefs. You have to look at your core beliefs first. You know, what are the negatives that you are hearing in your head? And yeah, I am not lovable. There's something wrong with me. I'm a bad person. Anything that I do is going to fail no matter what. You know, you can take that further and you can say, well, I'm going to fail no matter what. Other people have successes, but not me. You know, everything is good for other people, but not me. You know, I am a failure. It goes on and on and on. You know, there's something innately wrong with me. See, as a child, you can't figure this out. The only thing you can conclude is that, gee, there's something wrong with me because my mother or my father are hurting me, or they're not loving me, or there's something here that I'm desperately needing and I'm not getting it. So there must be something wrong with me. So that becomes a core belief. There is something wrong with me. Then as a child, with the limited ability you have, you start making things up. It's like becomes a magical world. Well, there's something wrong with me because I'm bad, or I didn't do something right. Let me try harder. No matter how you try to get mother and father to love you in the way you need, it doesn't work. So there comes a next core belief that says no matter what I do, I'm going to fail. Nothing works and nothing changes. That's a very powerful core belief. Nothing changes. There's nothing that I do, nothing that anybody else does that's going to change this. Nothing's going to be good. So this is how this works. So it's a whole process of going into that past to really identify the information that you received, then as a child how you perceived it, because it's all false, you know. But still, yeah, it could have been traumatic in your household, but it wasn't because you were bad. Okay, you could have been violated in your household, but it wasn't because you deserved it. It wasn't because you have sinned or because there's something wrong with you. You don't have the capacity as a child to say, my parents are dysfunctional. They must have been harmed when they were children. You don't have that capacity. In a child's world, it's all about them. They're to blame. They didn't do it good enough. They didn't do it right. You know, they don't know how to do it. And all of these become core beliefs, you see. So another thing is a reality check. So that's another tool that I help people. So if you wake up, for instance, and you feel overwhelmed with depression, or you're getting negative signals about something, or just the voice in your head says things are so bad we should just kill ourselves, to do a reality check. Say, wait a second, what's really going on here? Where am I right now? You look around you, see where you are. Now, if you're in a war zone, I could see where you would be terrified and you would be anxious and you would feel helpless and hopeless. But the majority of us listening are not in a war zone right now. So you do a reality check. You say, well, I have a house, a roof over my head. I have friends. I have resources that I could call on if I'm really down. I have friends who love me. You know, I'm healthy. I have food to eat. So what I'm saying is you're doing a reality check, identifying everything that's real in your life that is positive. When you start to do that, that other negative starts to shut up. It's like that the programming basically starts to get weaker and weaker. So for you, Nora, you identified your higher source, your higher power. It came through so strongly, and the minute you focused on that, you give it the power and the energy to eliminate and overrule that negative programming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the funny thing is, when I did think that, I said, oh, the only reason why I'm not going to do it is because I have 2 children and I can't be selfish. The voice actually told me, my higher self said, that should not be the reason why you don't do this.
Well,
you shouldn't do this because, you see, that's the thing. It was actually very, very strong. It was a little bit, like very assertive. That shouldn't be the only reason. It's because you're worthy. You're here for a reason.
Yeah, well,
so that kind of snapped me out of it.
Yeah, the one core belief that a lot of people have is a great percentage is I'm not good enough. And no matter what I do, it's not going to be good enough. Now, that's because if you were a child and no matter what you did as that child, your parents didn't change. The reason your parents didn't change was because they had their own imprints that were dysfunctional. It's not because you were bad. And you can't change your parents. As a child, you can't make things better, okay, no matter what you do. So you start then believing, that's your core belief, you believe that you're helpless, that everything is hopeless, and that no matter what you do, nothing's going to change. And so then you carry that into adulthood, and that becomes basically your MO. That's who you are.
True. That's very true. Thank you very much. I mean, that was very clear, and I hope it helped everyone. It definitely helped me.
Well, Nora, let me just point out something, Nora, because when you heard your higher self actually contradict what was in your mind, that's one of those surprise things. And that's when I know I got that higher voice in my head. They say things, it says things that I actually hadn't thought of and am surprised by. And I tell people, if you're being surprised by the message, the chances are that it's not inside of you. It's your total integration with your higher spirit. But I just want to point that out because you had pointed it out. I'm sorry, Barbara.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely.
No, I think that for me, I'm, in my 70s, and I came to realize, of course, that everything that happened to me as a child was so significant and important and had to be. I agree to come here to experience certain things. What happened to me as a child helped me now to be able to help others. I lived most of my life until Spirit started downloading this work in me into my 40s with the message, you should just kill yourself. That helpless, hopeless feeling, nothing, and nobody knew that about me, you see. But that was what I was plagued with. And when I started to do this work, I had to go all the way back to an infant in a crib. I saw myself. I said, why is it every day I wake up in the morning and I get this wave of this tsunami wave, a monster wave that comes at me with such depression and says, you should just kill yourself. And I started to identify that source, and it went all the way back to when I was in the crib. And I'll tell you what I discovered. And Nancy might, and even Colleen might be able to recognize this. It's like Dr. Spock, had this was the book, every parent used. And the 40s, 50s. I was born in 1942, and the book was like the Bible for new parents, and it was like one thing that he said, do not ever pick up your child if she's crying or he's crying. If he's hysterical, it doesn't matter. As long as there's no pins sticking in him, he doesn't have a dirty diaper, and he's been fed, do not pick that baby up. This is horrific. It's like torture. So when you think about it, if you're this little tiny person and you need that nurturing, you need the smell of your mother, you need her cooing, you need the sound of her heartbeat, you need to know that you are safe, and when you call out, and if that doesn't happen, you start to get hysterical. You've heard these little ones hysterical. It starts to accelerate, this hysteria. What's going on? After a while, you start to feel helpless. You start to feel like you're not going to survive, like you're going to die. And this is a terrible imprint. I've spoken to so many people about this. They have that imprint. And so you live in a situation where you either have a program that says, I want to die because it's so awful, or I'm going to die because it's so awful. Or, I should die. Just get out of here. I used to look up at the stars, and when I was a little person, 5, 6, 7, and 8, I used to go outside and I'd cry. I say, I want to go home. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. And, and I knew my home was off planet. I knew that I came from the stars because I was told that. I started out by saying everything that happened to me had to happen because it helps me to help others now. And I realized that I agreed to do this. I agreed to experience, the family that I came in with. I said, these aren't my people. Can't be my family. I want to go home. That's how devastated I was. But I know that it was a spiritual journey, and I know that this was so important for me, and I share my story with others so that they can, see that you can heal these things. And that's our spiritual journey here. It is all about coming back to who we really truly are. We're sacred people. We're sacred beings. And we're not, meant to be ruled, brainwashed and ruled by, other people telling us, number one, how to get to God, how to find our true source, who we are, how we should act, what we should do, how we should dress, how we should be. This is unheard of. We're sovereign beings, free, sacred people here. So, my story is everything that happened to me was perfect.
Wow. I so identify with what you said, especially the part where you were looking at the stars and crying and saying, I want to go home. That's exactly what I did.
You know what, Nora?
I don't do that as much now.
I speak to many, many people in this work that I've done have also told me they've done the same thing. And, it only happened to me again. Of course, I was little then, and it happened to me recently, about 2 years ago. Some things were really, really difficult, and I went outside, and I was in such a state, and I looked up and I started crying and said, I want to go home, and then all of a sudden Spirit came in and said, wait a second, you're still not done. You've got lots to do, and look at all the beautiful things that have happened, the miracles that we've shown you, and they were absolutely right, and it just put me right back on track, and I was like, wow, I almost got taken again by that agenda.
Wow. Well,
That's
thank
how
you for
powerful
sharing that.
it
That
is,
was
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, I feel very, I know that Creator is at work, even at Standing Rock and all places where people are standing up and awakening. We see it happening. This is an extraordinary time, but it is about our spirituality as we see, from the people there, the First Nations people. It is that faith. It is that power of faith, that power of prayer, that something is really happening bigger than we are aware of. And it's going to happen according to what Creator lays out for us and for our future. We are participants, and we have to hold that light, because that light is powerful. And be careful of your own agenda, like I want it to happen this way. I'm going to go out to Standing Rock, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, because I've had enough. Okay, doing that you may not like to hear this, but you are disrespecting the elders and the people there that live there on that land, and who have this sacred way. It's not about you, okay? It's not about anybody. It's about everybody together, but it's not about your own agenda. That's what I'm saying. So you have to be very respectful, because if you go out there and bring an energy that is disruptive to positive peacefulness, that's not helping. That's just not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Barbara, can I ask you a question? Were you brought up, or does dragons have any mythology in the Indian culture?
Yes, it does, and I'm not too familiar with it, but I know that it does have a lot to do with certain of the Indian cultures. Yes, not all of them. Yeah. But my lineage is Celtic too, so I have the old way of the Celts in my blood, so I have, a lot of that. But again, it's all, I have to keep saying that everyone, no matter what your background is, your heritage is, your original people were earth people. They had the myths, they had the magic, they had the knowing, they had the wisdom, they had that connectedness, and that's the original way,
That's funny that you're Celtic and Native Americans, because it seems like so am I.
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
Okay. There.
I was a Celt in a past life.
Yeah, so you look at that, because you look at the way of the people, right, that we're talking about. They were all connected to the great mysteries, right? They all knew the beings, the elementals, whether it were the little people, the fairies, the dragons, the protectors, the spirit beings, the water. They were all connected in that way, to the stars. How do you pay attention to the movement of the stars and the great beings? All what we're talking about, those nations, every nation had that connectedness. That was given to everyone. That's our original way.
Just because it's a great story, and maybe because we all are children at heart, and we all know that these beings really exist. Maybe if you can, and I don't know, maybe you can't, but can you just talk about the big spirits, the ones that we hope are, we believe, we pray for, that will put their energies into making the changes that are needed? But can you talk about them, like the Peacekeeper?
Yeah, well, there's so many. See, here's the great mystery, Nancy. The great mysterious. There are so many beings, so many elementals. It's infinite. So I only know, I've had experience with some myself, personal experiences, and I know of them. Then I would hear elders, perhaps speaking about others that they know of. I have come to recognize that we, because it is infinite and there are so many, numerous beings, that when I pray, for instance, when I communicate asking for help in a place, perhaps like, say, Standing Rock, my prayers are always for the beings that I know, that I've had personal experiences with, and those others who Creator has given certain jobs and guidance to do certain things. The ones who might, let's say, the ones who might bring the rain, or the ones who might change the weather in a moment. Those are powerful, and many of the elders know how to do that. They know how to turn away hurricanes. They know how to work with different elementals. And there are so many that I don't think in my life I will never know all of them. That's impossible. For instance, with the Kogi, they told me that there are certain shells from the mother's waters that they use to turn negative energies away. They use these shells in the way that they were guided to from the beings, or from the spirit of that shell, for instance, how to turn away negative energies, and also how to turn hurricanes back from coming to the lands. There are other elements that they use. See, that's how deeply connected these First Nations people are to the spirits. Everything that they do, they receive guidance because they are open to the communication. You can't receive guidance from a being without being open to that communication, and the way you're open is because you know they exist. But everyone, you could say the majority of people have been told that no, they don't exist, and you're crazy or weird if you think so,
Or that they're evil.
Or that they're evil. Now, you have to discern, because there is that. There are negatives out there, as positive and negative, yin yang, dark light. So the gift that we have I guess you'd want to say the gift that we were all given, but perhaps it's now been dull or disbelief, that we disbelieve these things. We have to learn the gift again. We were given discernment, the gift of discernment. But what I'm talking to you about is energy, frequency. And we've talked about this so much, to recognize what frequency is in regards to entities. Entities have a different frequency. Right, Nancy?
Absolutely. They're all unique.
They're all unique. And so the way you discern if this is a light being or a dark entity is through that energy, recognizing that's discerning the energy or the frequency of that entity. It will tell you. Exactly. But it's that frequency. You feel it. You see, we are energetic beings, so we feel the energy all around us. We really identify energy immediately, but you may not be aware of it. If you go into a house, for instance, that's abandoned, you might start to feel something. That's why people say, this house is haunted, because they're feeling an energy there that holds a different frequency. Is it a haunting of a negative being, or is it just a haunting where a person is lost and a soul is lost and they can't get free? That's all done with discernment. Same thing when you meet someone, you meet someone for the first time, you feel something about them. You may like them or you feel uncomfortable. You're feeling and sensing, you're using your gift of discernment through identifying a frequency that person is exuding. So the same thing about beings, elemental beings. There's elemental beings, there's the tree people, there's the plant people, there's the water people, the water spirits, there's the four-legged spirits. Each one of them has their own spirit. There's the winged ones, there's those seen and unseen, there's the Wakanja, the little people. You could go on and on and on. There's the Bigfoot or the Yeti. All of these beings are real. They exist. And with the First Nations people, we're in relationship to them, and they still are today.
I hope that people just, relax and listen to the voices in their heads and know that they're in control, what they focus on.
Well, listen to the voice in your heart.
In your heart, yeah, in your heart.
It's the voice in your heart, and that's a different energy. It's like to identify, like Nora identified her higher self. It was a different frequency. She identified it immediately because the other voice was a different frequency, compared to that higher self. And so it's sort of like the question, to learn how to question, you have to come into your own power. That's even difficult for some people because they are so, brainwashed, right? Because they don't even know that they can question who are you and what are you doing here? Are you from the light? That's a concept you got to help people identify. You can say, wait a second, even the voice in your head. I can identify the voice or an intrusive voice, an intrusive media program or mind control program that is trying to get at me. Now I can just say, get out, get out, because it's a negative. I know it's a negative. It's not me. So, but I've learned that, you see. I didn't know that years ago. I just was constantly inundated with this awful information. So I didn't know.
I recently asked people, I said, how many people here, and it was a group of people, and I said, how many people here have had stuff in their heads and they're going like, where's this coming from? Like it felt like it wasn't them.
Exactly.
And everybody raised their hands. You know, and that's part, it's gotten worse, and we know this because they're building more perfected Wi-Fi systems that are actually putting these thoughts in your head.
You are so right about that. It is getting worse. The first question that you just said, but the point is that take it further and say, this is not mine, get out. You know, just say, well, where's this coming from? You know, okay, on some level you're saying, I know this isn't me, where the heck is it coming from? But you have to then say, when you identify that this is an odd thing, where is it coming from? It's like then you go further and you identify that this is an outside source of negativity really attacking me. You know, and
well, it can be that it's an outside force coming in, but sometimes it's your own memories.
True. Sometimes it is that imprint. That's true.
Yeah. And so what I was trying to explain to people is what's happened in my own head, you know, whereas, I can easily discern when it's an outside force. And basically once you identify it, you just tell yourself, I'm not going to pay attention to that frequency. Now they're going to shift frequencies on you and they're going to try something new, and so you'll probably have to continually do it. But you will instantaneously begin to know that that's not you, that that's an outside influence. Now, when it comes to a memory, you really have to look at that memory and say, is it important that I remember this, that it haunts me, that it puts me into this funk? Did I learn my lesson back then? Then why am I carrying this garbage with me, this baggage? And if you take it and look at it from that standpoint, you can do the same thing. You just say, I do not want to have this memory come up again.
That's important to say, but I have to say that they are also drawing upon the memories. They're opening those doorways to the memories. So if you keep repeating a memory incident, for instance, you know that that's an outside source intruding in that as well, because they've been doing that and running old things through your mind, like you know, old situations and old circumstances, just running through your mind. You know, it's really, you have to be, I guess you have to just be empowered and identify that this is, like you just said, this is not mine and I don't want it right now. Don't get too involved with it.
What do you do when you are, for example, surrounded, if someone is forced to be surrounded by toxic people with very negative imprints who
are you
also
tied up?
Yeah, for example, you're tied up, family or whoever, but people that you're, forced, I don't want to use that word, but you have to interact with, who can also be part of your past, like family, for example. Because I think that's one of the most difficult things.
Well, yeah, that's a very toxic thing. You know, if you've had a toxic upbringing, going back to family is very toxic because it reactivates all of the old programs and you start becoming the child again. And it's, you know, that's why I say you have to do this particular healing work of deprogramming all those imprints so that you can actually be with your family or persons without being, you know, drawn into the old patterns. I'm sorry to say, you know, but I stayed away from my family for 4 years until I was absolutely free of the imprints so that I could actually be around my family, and not be affected and drop into the old patterns because they were still stuck in the old patterns.
You know, it's very interesting, Barbara, that you say that. My God. I mean, the trauma that I went through 2 years ago was that I was shunned by my family, excluding my father, because he calls me almost every day. He's a sweetheart. But I've been literally shunned by my whole family. And, of course, it was extremely devastating for me and blah, 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 all that. I went through a year of depression. It was so bad. But when I kind of woke up a little bit and got out of the woods and I started thinking with my head clearly, the thing that came to me, which obviously was from my higher self, what I heard was, even though it seems devastating, trust that it's the best thing for you. So now that you say this, it's reaffirming what my higher self told me, and I knew it because the frequency was different. Again, going back to the frequency, I knew it was coming from a place of wisdom. So I thought, okay, this is maybe a blessing in disguise. I don't feel bad in the sense that I can sleep at night, my conscience is clear, but maybe it happened for the best so I can kind of be away because it's an extremely toxic environment, a lot of like blaming and pointing fingers. And I've never been that way. I've been very much to myself. I don't like this kind of blame game. So I was a bit of the black sheep. But this is helping me to deprogram and be away from all that.
Well,
I just wanted to kind of comment. It's amazing.
When you are deeply, strongly, powerfully connected to your spirit, okay, then these earthbound stuff, what I call earthbound, we are a spirit, a divine being within this physical, embodied within this physical person here on earth. So we are bound to the earth energy of what the people are doing. Guilt is one big one, okay. Violence, hatred, jealousy, all the negatives, okay. So we are earthbound, I call it. But when you align and come into your own spirit, your true nature, all of that you could be around, but it doesn't drag you in. So you have compassion for your people. I saw my mother's own pain. I saw my dad's own wound. I recognized it, that I carried it. It was me. They gave it to me, but I no longer had it, so I could see them more clearly. And what they did or said or acted toward me didn't bother me because I had compassion for them, because I was freed from that. I was given the way to free myself. I broke that chain, and I loved them unconditionally. So no matter what they did or said to me, but it took me 4 years, I had to release myself so that I could be with my family and not be dragged in. So it's like when you come to love yourself unconditionally and know you are a divine spirit, you no longer are affected from this earthbound stuff. People could, like I said, call you names. They could disown you. They could spit on you. And you are in this state of bliss. You are in this state of grace because you are spirit. You identify yourself fully with that. So none of this earthbound stuff bothers you. It doesn't affect you like it would if you were not connected to your true self, your higher self. You know?
Absolutely.
That's the work.
Beautiful.
I believe. My belief is this is what we are aspiring to do here, to be able to come here as a spirit, to be embodied in this physical self, and to participate in raising our frequency so that we can be peaceful here as we were meant to be and connected to each other as family, not just our blood family, but we are all connected that way as family, as all people on this earth, given this great, beautiful paradise here, to live in harmony and balance and become back to becoming the original stewards of this gift, but it's hard to say that this is possible because of the ramping up of that other stuff that people are struggling with. But more and more people are awakening. But this is the time of prophecy about that time of becoming enlightened and, changing the old patterns, breaking the chains and entering into the new paradigm. The paradigm is the doorways are open. It's up to us to enter.
Can you expand a little bit on that prophecy?
It's like the time of enlightenment. Basically, is of course the Aquarius, right? Isn't it Aquarius?
Yes.
Right. So we're in that time. We've entered into that star system time, and everything above relates to the below. It's a mirror. So we are really in that time of great change and enlightenment, And of course, then you have, along with the Aquarius thing, you have the prophecy of the Hopi of the fifth world, 1,000 years of peace. And the prophecy that was given to me about the return of the sacred feminine and the partnership and the balance and harmony. All of these three prophecies that I have just named are, synced together. They're working simultaneously. So when I say the doorway's open, the doorway opened in 2012. That was a very significant time, and people were looking at it. A majority of people were looking at it as this is the end. The world's going to end. No. That was a time of one ending and another beginning. Okay, it was a timeline ending, which was the fourth world. because then we were entering into the age of Aquarius, and we were entering into the 1,000 years of peace, that the doorway was open, the portal open. Huge changes happened. Many people saw things happening. There were, monumental things. But what's happening is that if you don't have the energies in alignment, there's a lot of wobbling going on, So we see beautiful things happening, and then we see tragic things happening, back and forth we're going, wobbling, back and forth, back and forth. So for us personally, it is how we hold the light, how we hold our in light. The light is within us. How do we become enlightened? What does that mean? How do we become the peacekeepers, the 1,000 years of peace? Because that's a frequency. If you don't believe in peace, you're never going to experience that frequency, or never affect that frequency. You're never going to grow that frequency. We're part of the, all connected, so therefore whatever we do, you, me, and everybody else out there, affects the change, one way or the other. So it's in our hands. That's why we've come here to participate, right? We agree to participate, and we have power, but we don't know it. So we're basically either being subject to the negative power that's flinging us around, and we're down on lower frequencies, or we're in higher frequencies because we are more connected to the spirit within us and that truth, that we are divine. So the age of enlightenment, that's what that means. Or how enlightened are you? Are you seeking enlightenment? Meaning, are you seeking to build your light, grow your light, inside of you? That's your divine spirit, is the light within you. That means, are you in relationship to that light within you? Are you realizing that there is that divine spirit within you, that you are so much more than you could imagine, And that spirit within you, that light within you, is connected energetically, because it is a high frequency, to the highest divine frequency, the Creator, Mother, Father, and also the Mother, Gaia. So the time of getting into the 1,000 years of peace is all up to us, It's how are we going to function, participate in this, timeline? Because this is that, I guess I'd say we've reached a timeline in humanity's cycle that we've never reached before. And we agreed to come here to participate because of what's happening to the mother, to this earth, to this planet in the cosmic realm, which is so crucial to the whole of everything, you see. So it's kind of like many layers here, but the many layers include every one of us. We're not outside of what is unfolding. We are all participants, either positively or negatively. We have all been given the power and the gift as co-creators. How we co-create is through our words, our thoughts, and our emotions. So that's very powerful.
And that was very powerful. So we're at the top of the hour now. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Nora, you got anything that you'd like to just put out there?
No, I just want to say thank you. It was just beautiful listening to every word.
Yeah. Yep. Colleen, what you got coming up?
Well, coming up after this is Haggy Reads for You. And I didn't get a chance to do a recording, a recent one. So I'm going to be replaying Barbara Threecrow's book, Mending the Hoop. And then after that will be the Fans of Whitley Strieber show. And Whitley, of course, if we're playing them today, they played last week, which was Thanksgiving. So, over Thanksgiving, they presented a great show. One for the free archivers, the free Dreamlanders, and another for the paid subscription ones. And I have downloaded both of those shows. One is some of Annie's legendary interviews with contactees that, she did with a lot of the people that wrote in after Whitley published his book Communion, and people wrote to her about their experiences, excuse me, and she read every one of those letters and answered everyone, as well as interviewed some of those people. So I've got 2 of those interviews up. And then, let me see, there's, William Henry, an old interview from 2012. Think you understand Close Encounters? Listen and be amazed. So that's coming up.
I love Henry.
Yeah. And then, of course, JP takes over the stream at 6, so for Sean David Morton's show. And then sometimes he has different things in between Sean David Morton and then Max Steele's show tonight. So that's what's on the slate for today.
Well, I appreciate you so much, and everybody out there, be safe. We'll see you. I'll be on Saturday. Say what we're going to have. Actually, I'm going to start with Dolly's show. And we're going to have Debrielle on, and then Gene Rockefeller should be on Say What show. So that's going to be fun, and whatever you got on Friday. But everybody out there, be safe. Again, Barbara, thank you. Thank you, Nora. Colleen, appreciate you so much. And be safe, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for visiting. You have been listening to World Talk with Friends, a Haggy Shack radio production simulcast over the Wolf Spirit Media Network.